AA Best Bail Bonds Big Game coverage live from Miami.
It is the Blitz here on 1250 ESPN San Antonio, 94.5 FM. Sitting at home, suckers! We're in Miami for the Super Bowl, but go to ESPNSA.com wherever you might be. Thank you so much for dialing us in. He's Ross Tucker. That's Jason Minix. I can actually point to him on Facebook. We can actually say, buddy, I'm Rob Thompson.
Exactly.
Ross, first day of the car wash, man. How's your day going?
It's going great. It's going awesome. Yeah, always good to see you guys here every year. And anytime we get a chance to chat, you guys know how I feel about San Antonio, so I always make it a point to come on with you guys.
Yeah, you're due for a visit. We need to go take you down and feed you some tacos.
I love the food in San Antonio. San Antonio is like a hidden gem. It
Yeah.
really is. The weather, the food, but it's not like crazy crowded traffic. Maybe the traffic's worse than I realized. I don't
Traffic
know. No,
sucks,
actually,
but it's not as bad as other cities. But
relatively.
for us, it sucks. But, it's interesting. We had the San Antonio mayor, Ron Nirenberg, was on with us this past Friday as we celebrated 12 years of being on the air in San Antonio, and he is trying to make a push to get the NFL draft in San Antonio.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. I think San Antonio could handle it. The issue is they're going to do the draft and most events in Vegas and LA the next few years.
Yeah,
And we certainly understand why, and we're not
NFL
against it.
cities,
Maybe for the foreseeable future, it's going to be in those two places, I think. I mean, that's a big reason why they wanted those stadiums in those places and why they're happy, frankly, that the Raiders moved there and that the Rams and Chargers got that new stadium for all these big events like that.
Well, I understand a lot of this stuff, but I do like the idea of them moving the draft. Nashville last year was crazy.
Awesome.
Philadelphia was crazy. The Cowboys had it there, and it was good. I wouldn't say it was as good as the other two, but I liked the urban feel of what Nashville and Philadelphia did, and in Chicago, too, for that matter. You feel like you're part of the crowd. You're not sitting at a sterile stadium like they did at the Cowboys
Yeah, the Cowboys
stadium.
was not the same. It's just different when it's in the city like that. And I've seen these pictures. They got, like, the boats in Vegas. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I'm just not sure. I've seen it, and it's Vegas, so anything can happen, but they're going to put boats in the fountain at Bellagio. I mean, that's not a very big pond when you think about putting boats in there.
I think what they should do, Ross, is every first-round potential draft, how they have the green room? It's a green boat. Yeah, every draft pick gets a kayak. We put them out there, and as they're drafted, they paddle up, and, if you're still floating about 3 hours later, maybe you should have chosen to stay in or whatever else, but at least you're floating around and not have a camera on you.
You're going to make them kayak around.
Oh, yeah, you could work out. You could
throw out some ducks, let them ride rubber ducks out there.
Maybe you can swim a little bit. It'll
and
be a
if
little
the
bit
fountains
warmer.
go off and you're in the wrong spot, you're going to get flipped
That's
over.
part of it. That would be part of the draft. If they do that, then I would vote for Vegas
Survival of the fittest.
Exactly.
Well, that or, I know, what was it, down the strip with the pirate boats, Treasure Island or whatever, where they would fly all over the place.
That was Treasure Island.
Yeah, I think they should do that, just have them swing in.
Or the at the Venetian, you got the gondola
the
types
gondolas.
singing on their way. And there's lots of opportunity. We could do the same thing in San Antonio. We got river boats.
Yep. We could do that.
I would love that. You guys know how I feel about San Antonio. I would love if the draft was there. I'd be all for it. I think it's going to be tough for them to put it somewhere where there's not an NFL city.
That is
all the NFL cities want one. So I don't know how they'd explain that one away.
Well, we'd take a team too. I mean, if they were throwing out teams, we would take a team.
I mean, that's the idea. That's the next step. And Jerry Jones has said on this show before, there are more Cowboy fans in San Antonio per capita than in Dallas.
It's unbelievable.
It is definitely
Which
Cowboys
is why
country.
he would never let them get their own team ever.
If it was to ever happen, there would be a generational change. There would still be a Cowboy town pretty much for about 15, 20 years, but I think it would fade away. But even the first couple, I think first and foremost Texans, because in San Antonio we had to grow up football fans and Cowboy fans, but there's Texans and there's a variety other because of the militariness of the city. I think we would eventually adopt it. I think we'd be an early adopter by lot of tickets, but there'd be a lot of people sitting in the San Antonio Commanders, whatever they might be, wearing maybe a Cowboys
Do you
jersey.
guys have an XFL team?
No, we had the Alliance team, and
Yeah.
San Antonio led the Alliance in attendance and in merch sales. It was
I can't believe
phenomenal.
they wouldn't put an XFL team there.
Well, we actually chose against it. It was a either-or kind of preposition initially. XFL actually came to the San Antonio first, and our mayor and leadership and kind of balanced the two offers, and they went with the Alliance instead of the XFL.
Oh, so they had to make their pick.
And the Alliance was first, and so they went there, and also the only team in Texas because there's XFL in Dallas and Houston. Now, I think the XFL might expand to San Antonio in a year or two because there's still a lot of unpaid bills in San Antonio and across where Alliance teams were, so might take the business community a little bit to embrace an XFL team.
Got it.
And everybody would have to pay in advance. There would be no credit.
He is Ross Tucker sitting in with us. If you're not following him on Twitter, if you're not listening to his podcast, first of all, I bet you lost a lot of money this year. And secondly, you're not fully informed into the football world.
Well, you didn't win as much money as you could have, that's for sure, if you listen to the Even Money podcast. I don't pretend to be like an expert, but I'm up 24 units for the year so far. I got 4 plays on the Super Bowl that I'm excited about. I can give you guys 1 or 2 maybe if you want me to, but the Even Money podcast is where it's at for that. I got to tell you guys, it really does make the games more interesting. I mean,
when you get a little scratch?
I mean, dude, I'm just telling you, Sundays, I'm watching the Red Zone, right? If I'm not doing a game or there, the end of the 1 o'clock games, 1 o'clock Eastern games, when they're all coming down to crunch time, that is awesome.
Yeah?
Because it seems like every game, it's like my bet could go one way or the other, and it's like, I mean, I can see why gambling is a highly successful venture for the actual entities as opposed to the people betting.
There's something to it, but I always end up having to play Monday night just to get myself even. there's always Monday night.
That doesn't always work. That's the chase game.
the
Nothing
topper.
wrong with that. You know, it's interesting because you hear some of these guys, and you know, everybody in sports radio, you hear the different commercials, and you got the guy on there he's got the guarantee Stone Cold Lock of the Week, of the Year, of the Century, and you just hear him, and you realize that guy's driving a Camaro, wearing a gold chain and a members only jacket. You know, he's and if you don't, you know, he's coming after you. Don't have you're not that way.
No,
you're way too nice.
No, I just tell you what I think, and it's funny because my co-host on that podcast, Steve Fezzik, he's the only guy that ever won the Westgate Super Contest twice at the Westgate Casino, and yet I'm kicking his butt this year. And 2 years ago I kicked his butt. Last year he got me pretty good.
Was it because you went from heart to brain or brain to heart? What I mean, how do you?
There's no explanation.
Okay, just
no. I mean, I'm actually going to do this off season. I'm going to take my end of the year. We've been doing it like 5 or 6 years. I'm going to take my end of the years for each and see where I'm at overall, because you want to have the biggest sample size possible. Because I think a couple years ago I was up 20 some units. Now last year I was down a little bit. And this year I'm up 20-some units. But overall, I am up for sure. And I'll just tell you guys right now, I like the over. Even though the over's been getting bumped up, I think there's a lot of points in this Super Bowl. And I'm going with the Niners.
okay. How can you bet the over and expect and go with the Niners at the same time? My thought is if the Niners are there, the over's way too high.
I think it's like 35-31, something like that, 38-35. I mean, the Niners scored 35 points or whatever it was against the Packers, and they could have scored more if they wanted to, and the Packers scored 20. If the Niners get a lead, I think the Chiefs, it's even more of the reason why the Chiefs will score points, because they'll be trying to come back, and Mahomes will be going crazy. They'll be throwing the ball all over the place. I think both teams score a lot. I think we saw in the second half of that Packers-Niners game, the Niners secondary is not their strength.
No.
And I think Mahomes is going to put some points up. I'm telling you, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Initially, my take was close game. I'm going to go with the better quarterback. Because close game, that means late in the game. What quarterback are you going with? But I've kind of changed my tune because the more I think about it, doesn't it feel like any time a team with an elite quarterback plays against a team that is better up front on both sides of the ball, the team that's better up front on both sides of the ball ends up winning. It just feels like the big boys carry the day over the quarterbacks in Super Bowls more often than not.
When you look at line play, and you know a lot about line play, San Francisco is better on both sides, right?
Yes.
Yes.
But if it's a high-scoring game, I'm going with the quarterback that I trust more to make the big throw, and that's Patrick Mahomes. And no offense to Jimmy G, I mean, we've seen him have incredible passing games, but this is a San Francisco team that has relied on the run, and so if it's time for one of those big throws, I got to go with Mahomes.
And that logic is totally understandable, and that's probably where I was the first 48 hours after the conference championship games. But the more I think about it, I'm going with the big boys. I'm going with the guys up front because it just seems like more often than not they win the day.
No, since it's been said, I've kind of gone back and forth, although I'm leaning more towards Kansas City and have been, but I can hear every argument for San Francisco. What do you
don't
think?
Realize what country you're in, Jay. You're supposed to pick a lane and just totally hate anybody that feels the opposite of you. Don't be listening to rational arguments on my watch. Okay?
Well, yeah, but I've known you long enough, Ross, that by Friday you're going to be selling Kansas City.
Follow the money.
Hey, if more people in Kansas City buy stories from myfrontpagestory.com, then I absolutely will. If there's more Valentine's Day gifts that come in from myfrontpagestory.com, the greatest Valentine's Day gift of all time, then I'll be going with the Chiefs. No, honestly, I probably want the Chiefs to win, to be honest with you. I mean, I think Andy Reid deserves it. He's an awesome guy. I'd love to see him win it. And I'm fine with that. I mean, I got friends on both teams, right? So I'm fine either way. I'm just going to go with, it's hard for me to put away what I saw from the Texans and the Titans early in those games.
Yeah,
right.
So maybe you can be impressed
That's
by
the
the Chiefs
scary
coming
part,
from
yeah.
behind. But I look at it more like they were getting dominated early in those games, and the Niners are much better than the Texans and Titans. So that's who I'm going with. I'm going with the Niners.
As we sit today. I am too, but I don't know what will make me change my mind, but I am 49-51 right now with 51 on the Niners side.
And I think, Ross, I want Kansas City to win. As a Cowboy fan, I hate the Niners. I don't want to see them get another trophy. Old Navy buddies from Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes would be the first high school player from the state of Texas that went to college in Texas to win a Super Bowl.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
As a starting quarterback.
As a starting quarterback.
That's
because you
awesome.
look at Drew Brees and Nick Foles, both went to high school in Texas, the same high school at Austin Westlake, but they didn't go to college in Texas.
What a failure, by the way, for the colleges in Texas.
Isn't that amazing?
It's an
They went to Purdue and Michigan State.
Uh-huh.
It's not like they went to Alabama or USC. They went to Purdue and Michigan State.
Well, and Nick was Arizona, right? Didn't Nick Foles
after he
end up-
transferred.
Yeah.
With
I
Michigan
mean,
State,
but
they
it's
he didn't
just-
even go there the second time.
No. They got out of Austin's backyard.
By the way, your argument about the Chiefs late, that was my argument for why the Patriots would beat the Eagles, and the Eagles still won.
Yeah.
So that doesn't always come true.
He is Ross Tucker joining us here on ESPN San Antonio. Great follower on Twitter. You got to listen to his podcast weekly to make yourself some money. Even Money is the podcast, easily found. You brought it up just a second ago, and we talked about this last year, Ross, when you sat in with us. The front page story, my front page story that you were a part of. And I talked about it. We promoted it a little bit. And I a couple of weeks afterward got a little bit of feedback from it. And what I heard was this was extraordinary. The professionalism, the writing of what was given. One was for a Valentine's and one was for a graduation gift. And,
I love it.
And I'm so glad you're here talking about it again, because this is something that I got feedback that is completely worthy. It is the best Valentine's gift. It is momentous and it's singular in it that it marks a moment in time, but also the story that is told by your writers that, it's an interview that goes on. Why don't you explain the process and what exactly this is?
I'm happy to hear that. You literally talked to a writer for 10 minutes, myfrontpagestory.com. You tell them about your wife or whoever, for that matter. They write the story, send it to you. And I'm just telling you, the key to the whole thing is it looks like it's framed on the cover of the newspaper. And when you hand it to your wife and say, I wanted to do something special this year, so I had a story written about you, it's incredibly powerful to be able to say, I had a story written. Who gets to say that for any gift, let alone a Valentine's Day gift? All the other guys are getting chocolates and flowers. That's tired. MyFrontPageStory.com.
All right, it's the 27th of January.
Yeah, now's the time.
Will it be there in time? You
Oh,
keeping
yeah,
your riders
yeah,
busy?
yeah. But you got to do it now. Don't procrastinate. Don't wait 2 weeks. Don't order this on February 11th. Order it now. MyFrontPageStory.com.
And it will
Appreciate it.
also signify that you planned well ahead.
Yes.
This was not a last
Yes.
minute gift.
Yes.
You've been thinking
Yes.
about
Yes.
it for some
I
time.
What
love
a
it.
key.
I
What a
love
key.
it.
Awesome.
Ross
Always good
Tucker.
being on with you guys.